behalf of the Demitasse Repertory Company, I'd like to welcome you to this episode of Studio E, Thoughts for a Lost Friend, the full story. My name is Susan Bond, and I'm one of the founding members of the Demitasse Repertory Company, and also the director of the show you will see this evening. This play by Richard Cerulli, the playwright and producer, is his most thought-provoking and reflective existential drama to date. A play that takes Cerulli outside of his comfort zone and brings him into a totally new genre. The story is about the pain of guilt inflicted on the human soul for the sake of honor and fidelity. It's a haunting moral story where honor and morality are both protagonist and antagonist, proving that no good deed goes unpunished, even if it is self-inflicted. The play centers around two aging baby boomers, alienated, who are reunited after 40 years to bring closure for having lost a close mutual friend in Vietnam. This drama is centered around Jonathan Marshall, played by Rob Ansbro as Jonathan in the present, and Vincent DiVanzo as Jonathan in the past. The cast was rounded out by Christine Fonsale playing Patty. The story actually begins with the present Jonathan seated at his desk, and he's just recently retired and in somewhat of a suicidal state, highly agitated. He's making his daily journal entries and then rewinding back and forth to diaries from his teens. The play also incorporated some interesting musical elements as well as digital graphics by our digital graphic designer, Eric Schultz. And we had a beautiful rendition of the Star Spangled Banner by Drew Kakos. And we had Scott Morgan on synthesizer, which was a very effective way to close the show, very moving. The thing about the direction was going back and forth between the older Jonathan in the present and the younger self. I had achieved a lot of this with the lights, different lighting effects. We'd bring down the lights, bring up the lights to show the transitions. We didn't want to overly use that. We had used some musical cues as well. There were many cues, so we did have to keep it at a minimum and keep it effective and not cause it to be a distraction. But I think they gave a wonderful performance, and I'm hoping that the playwright enjoyed it. I think he did. This play is dedicated to all Vietnam veterans, especially to those who never returned, dead or alive. And now I'd like to turn over to Jerry Morano. He's actually a combat veteran of the Vietnam War. He had seen the performance and was moved by it, and he wants to share some of his thoughts with you. So thank you very much from my side and the Demitasse players.
Hi, my name is Jerry Morano, and I'm a Vietnam War veteran who recently attended Richard Cerulli's latest play, Thoughts for a Lost Friend. The work centers around two aging baby boomers and former lovers who meet after 40 years in an attempt to bring closure after having lost their best friend in Vietnam. This left them distraught, angry, and carrying a lot of self-guilt and contempt for each other. Richard Cerulli's play captured the raw emotions and wrenching pain that we all identified with during the war. And as performed by his excellent repertory theater, the Demitasse Players, the playwright, who's also a baby boomer, end of draft age during the war, didn't serve in the military, though he dedicated this play to all Vietnam veterans, especially those who were missing in action, MIAs as we referred to them, and their families and friends who never found closure. The playwright did confine in me, since this play, a very deep and moving existential work on human condition, was a new genre for him to challenge. He further stated that the theme of the play had haunted him for most of his life. Having experienced his own series of nightmares of American GIs being lost and tortured in a foreign land with no prospect of being released. That was sincerely conveyed. The play was well attended, with seats filled by many Vietnam War veterans just like myself. I believe the playwright has presented Vietnam veterans with a noble and honorable thank you for all of our dedication and sacrifice. I do really encourage all of you to take the time to view Thoughts for a Lost Friend. The experience will be moving, emotional, and I can tell you, one evening you will not easily forget.
This is the end, beautiful friend. This is the end, my only friend. The end of our elaborate plans. The end of everything that stands. The end, no safety or surprise. The end, I'll never look into your eyes again. Can you picture what will be so limitless and free, desperately in need of some stranger's hand in a desperate land?
In my reflective reverie, I became conscious of the technological silence that surrounded me today. No emails, no texts, and no voice messages. No familiar calls to mark my existence. Today, my world fell silent. The aging process is always on time, though always mocking us with moments of underserved loneliness. In this moment of physical rest, my mind entered into a chorus of inner reflections with self-analyzing conversations, in the belief I could construct a new future from the smoldering ashes of my past, believing I can transmute the future's outcome of learned lessons from my past, which only exists within the biased memory with little or no consensus among the images of my head. The loneliness of my silence bred thundering thoughts and lightning that struck my soul more than once in the same place. I was also equally guilty in this game of silent Russian roulette for getting lost within myself in the emotional vacuum that exists between time and space. Time and space. In my existential alienation, my thoughts conducted me with motionless melancholy through our sad history of humanity in distress, the byproduct of our comfort with ignorance and disdain for truth and wisdom. I embraced my self-imposed exile of silence as a means to engage the character and habits of the profane. For to do more would be like throwing pearls before fattened swine. The earnest mind is like a camera that pans through our thoughts, capable of stopping to zoom in on those thoughts of interest. Today, I zoomed in on one of those past days of youthful indiscretion coupled with the rites of passage. Why have I blocked these thoughts out of my mind out of neglect, denial, fear, or cowardice? Maybe just having a post-event brain virus? We judge ourselves too cruelly in our golden years, for our paths taken and forsaken, and crossroads feared. Although, we're wise enough to know that all paths taken or denied are filled with rewards and regrets. In our golden years, we have less time to entertain the what-ifs. Only the what was. In my teens, I slept with the sweats of fear, knowing my fate was not my own. My plans collided with my destiny with opposing force with its recoil of rejection. Camus said it best, amor fati. We have no choice but to love our fate. For hating it or being in fear of it won't change it. Absinthe. My old friend. The high school years. You were so much. 1968. The year that changed everything. I was a sophomore in high school. My fate would soon be in the hands of the local draft board. My thoughts were now like echoes in a reverb chamber that was driving stakes deep within my soul, and my mind revisited the news of the Tet Offensive, Quezon, the USS Pueblo, and the Malay Massacre, not to mention all the domestic chaos plaguing our nation at the time. Well, at least 3 astronauts got to lucky enough to escape the Earth's chaos for 11 days aboard Apollo 7. I always kept a journal, even in my teens. I always had this fantasy of sorts that if I ever became famous and died early, that I would have my story to leave behind. Well, I'm older, and I'm certainly not famous in any way, and I don't even know why I keep these journals anymore. I don't think anybody would be genuinely interested in reading them anyway. I mean, not even my children. Well, maybe the nosy and curious with their sick, inquisitive minds, looking for something scandalous or unbecoming of my character, or... "1969 was the year the war expanded into Cambodia, codenamed Operation Menu, followed by Hamburger Hill. Operation Apache, Operation Camden. And by the end of the year, the U.S. military presence peaked at 543,000. 543,000. And now the government was talking of implementing a draft lottery for all males, 18 to 26, requiring us to report to the Selective Service. And why have I forgotten all of this? Why am I so compelled to read on? Thursday, June 10th, 1971. I found myself in
You finished as I awoke.
Just sat on his mic.
I must have crashed last night while I was reading that old dead
Sat
food.
on his mic. No, that's okay. We're okay.
I was tired and my head was still cloudy from the meth I'd taken over the past few days as I crammed for my finals. I had the day off. I turned on the TV to see what was going on with the Vietnam War. More body bags sent home with honor to their grieving families. Sadly, these were the fortunate ones to a degree. Many a youth left and never returned to their families, dead or alive, given the nom de plume as MIA, missing in action. All winners of the lottery of fate, I would imagine. The draft lottery for my year has been postponed till August 5th from its customary July 1st date. I was relieved in one sense that I have more time to live and to confront my fate, but on the other hand, I think it may be a bad omen of sorts. I'm not a gambler, and would not say a very lucky person. Now somebody else would be gambling with my life and my future. So ironic, I don't even know myself at this point at 18. I began to think of what would lie ahead of me in the next year. College? Or a government-paid road trip to Vietnam, to kill, and maybe even be killed in some foreign terra firma. Why the hell even fucking study for what? What are the benefits if one dies in their youth, smart or dumb? Tombstones lack IQs. I lit up a joint to break up my melancholy. Then I opened up the window and burned some incense in the event of an unscheduled parent intrusion. I pulled my disheveled self together, went downstairs, showered, got dressed, and left the house without a destination. As I left the house, I found myself in the middle of another one of my parents' caustic arguments. They only stopped to turn their rage and hostilities towards me, the only thing that they held in common. You know, the catcalls were rather abusive, but expected, typical, and frequent. Hey, where you To get high? Going to screw your whore girlfriend? I just exited. I ignored them. They resumed their fight as my mother's paramour waited outside in his car with his ND plates. Friday, July 2nd, 1971. I woke up during the night in a nightmare of sweat. Life is such a contradiction. It's arbitrary, capricious. Are we ruled by fate, destiny? Where's my free will? We're just pawns in the hands of the power brokers, with our free will limited to the time between their moves. A little over a month, I'll know my fate, possibly counting down my days of life if I win big in next month's draft lottery. With less college deferments and little to no chance of my parents paying for college, what will I have to look forward to, huh? The killing fields of Vietnam? Body bag to call around? Or never to return home? You know, the elders tell me not to worry. By the time I reach middle age, I'll look back on this time as a proud and fond accomplishment. You know, I have to laugh. Who says with age comes wisdom? You know, if I'm killed by the time I'm 20, middle age for me will be 10 years old. I don't remember looking at myself at 10 as being brave and noble with a dream to kill humans for my badge of honor. I spent the day in my room, playing my guitar, reading, just hanging out. Around 7-ish, I went to hang out with some friends, nothing worth writing about. Sunday, July 4th, 1971. I have no plans or desires to offer my unlived life to Washington. You know, I wrestled with my options. What if I hit a low number? I questioned my own courage. Was Shakespeare right when he said something like, a brave man dies but once, but a coward dies 1,000 deaths? Or is it just jungle survival of the fittest? Will I die 1,000 deaths for every memory that I recall of everyone that I've killed in battle? I mean, whose child would I be killing? Whose parent would I be killing? How can one kill with honor or for honor? It was a hot, humid day. All of us were feeling down. We had another one of us drafted and would be shipping out Friday, July 16th. You know, our ranks were getting thinner by the months. We all went to attend the local fireworks. We didn't even bother to get high. The drugs could no longer ease our growing pains. Life was beginning to end as we knew it. At the fireworks, we all contributed to the veterans selling their poppy flowers. In our melancholy, we felt guilty, appreciative, but mostly lost. Thursday, July 15th, 1971. 6 a.m. again, I couldn't sleep. Only 19 days away until my draft lottery, and I felt the pressure of the date bearing down on me day after day. Along with my indecision as to how to plan for a winning number. You know, in our youth, we exploit our foolishness, seeking out thrills with our ignorance and folly. Knowing that in adulthood we would applaud ourselves for not wasting our youth solely on growing up. The days appeared to grow shorter as my lottery day approached. All my praying would not halt time. I only prayed for a high number, knowing I was unlucky in any game of chance. But now I've reached my majority. Graduating from all the protections and benefits from being a minor, I can now sign contracts, legally drive at night, legally drink, oh yeah, and be drafted. The benefits of reaching my majority do not outweigh my lost youthful privileges and society's forgiveness of youthful discretion. For us common teenage boys outside the world of privilege, the draft hung over our heads like the sword of Damocles. I just spent the day hanging out with a girlfriend, Judy, at her parents' in-ground pool for the day. Her blonde hair, blue eyes. And that bikini, they were a smooth respite from my inner turmoil. We smoked a joint, got high, and made love by the pool. We were not the inhibited types. Friday, July 16th, 1971. 12 noon. Slept well, woke up late. Got out of bed just around noontime. I made plans for tonight's send-off party for Meade. That wasn't his real name. His real name was Arthur Wormwood, but I gave him this nickname since he was a little different from the rest of us. He never smoked pot. He just drank, and he had blonde hair. You know, he kind of looked like a Viking, you know? He was the only wasp in our gang of friends. Drinking mead every time he got drunk. That Viking concoction of beer and honey. Ugh. Never wears his hair long or down, always combs it back. Meade is either really humble or had some self-esteem issues. He never felt he was good looking enough to date attractive girls. He always smiles and is good-natured and respectful. He was one of us, but different. Living in his world of sorts. I don't ever recall having words with him, but I felt some foreboding over tonight's send-off. Out of all the gang, he was the most respectful one. He had like a child's innocence. 6 p.m. I started calling the guys and gals about making arrangements for Meade's send-off party. We had it down to a ritual. Sadly, we'd done this so many times in the past that we no longer really enjoyed it. p.m. We all met at the Cesario Street entrance to the park. We placed the folded paper notes with the printed names of the hard liquor along with 2 wild cards, and the 2 who drew these cards were to pick liquor not listed on the folded papers. The notes were placed in a bucket by Patty, who then mixed them up, and then we each reached in to pick from the lottery. Except for me. Then we headed out in our cars to different liquor stores to buy our booze. Patty, Mary, and the gals stayed behind to set up the huge metal basin and, to get the ice, cups, whatever. When we returned, we all emptied our bottles into the basin along with the wild card liquor. Danny, a.k.a. Sticks, he was the drummer for our rock band, so the name fit. And Frank, a.k.a. Big Mac McGuire, drew the wild cards, adding Anazette and Sambuca to the mix. It was a terrible brew that made us all forget who and where we were. The gals ladled the brew into paper cups as they handed each of us our cup of cheer. We then toasted Mead, wishing him well on his journey. And then all of us drank the first cup in one gulp, as per the rules of the ritual. We had honored Mead by putting honey into the mix, making our impromptu Mead Viking drink. I had some foreboding about this send-off. You know, Mead was different. He was innocent. Still a virgin. I think he drank just to play the part of being a cool guy. He wasn't natural at it. With his boyish smile, he just wanted to fit in. Be like the rest of us. I wasn't close to him as a friend, though I felt some sort of connection to him. I didn't like to drink or get high on drugs, but I went along with it to be part of the gang. Though I was highly independent. The coming draft had me looking at life with a different perspective. I guess I played the part better than Mead. He was more of a traditionalist like me, though I always hit it the best I could. I kept thinking Mead is just not cut out to be in the military, no less the army. He held a dedicated patriotism. He shunned the anti-establishment rhetoric of the day. Unlike me, he spoke his mind. I resigned to keep my thoughts to myself. Silence is golden, I thought. I was never good with goodbyes. I found them very painful, almost to the point of inner hurt. But, my exterior was always emotionless. My thoughts and feelings were my own, not to be shared. By the time we went for our refills, the smoke master appeared with rolled joints and hash to fill our pipes, followed by the acid queen with her tabs of acid to cultivate our high. A euphemism for neurosuicide. The ritual was now underway. Word of the send-off spread throughout our small village. Soon many guys and gals joined us in our libations and our dance into oblivion. Our external bodies partied and danced in true bacchanalian form as a means to silence the cries of our screaming souls, saddened by our circle of friends getting smaller by the days, and knowing that those who are no longer with us are now in some God-forsaken killing field, maybe never to be seen again. I guess when life runs out of happy options, death always comes along to bring a final solution. Amor fati. I didn't go for the second round of drinks, nor accepted the gifts of the smoke master or acid queen. I just found myself in a quiet place under a tree and just watched as an innocent bystander and wrote my journal entries. The ritual was now in full swing. I need say no more of what transpired. Mead by now was feeling quite good, as he slurred his words as he attempted to sing and dance along to the music coming from one of the car's 8-track cassette players. Bad Moon Rising by Creedence Clearwater Revival. It was now time to speak those sacred shibboleths to the acid queen and her entourage, to take Mead to the sacred woods for his rite of passage before he passed out. Knowing Mead's disciplined, far too innocent sexuality, waiting for the love of his life, please. We know we can't send him off to war, a virgin. How will these saving angels be judged by society? I thought, as whores and libertines? He who is without sin cast the first stone. Well, for those less fortunate than us, who never returned home alive, these saving angels were their last fond mortal memory as their angel of death came to approach in some far-off distant land. By dawn, Art emerged from the woods, disheveled and smiling, with the acid queen in hand, as Patty and Mary were in waiting as longtime friends. They gave me their heartfelt kisses and hugs, holding their tears under the guise of drunken laughter, knowing that it was time for him to go. Meade then went to a duffel bag and came back with a hammer and chiseled his name into the rock at the entrance to the sacred woods with the date. ATW, 7/16/71. We all looked on as we hid our sadness under our mock smiles. I drove Meade to the train station with Patty and Mary for a trip to the induction center. I didn't get out of the car. I wished him well. I gave him a cold handshake, and he returned it with that big, innocent little boy smile and said, "Thanks for being a real friend, and for the advice. I'll see you soon." It almost fucking killed me. I'm terrible at goodbyes. They bring me way too close to my emotions, so I let Patty and Mary walk them to the platform and wait while his train arrived. They saw him off in good order. He turned one last time to wave at me. I just froze in silence. Patty and Mary got back in my car. They looked at each other and they just started to cry. We've seen it all before. Goodbyes are never guarantees or prerequisites for a reunion. I dropped them off at their homes, leaving them with less than a goodbye. I headed home to crash. It must have been around 7-ish in the morning. Saturday, July 17th, 1971. I was only days away from my fate. I didn't even call on my friends. I tried unsuccessfully to break up another one of my parents' arguments by asking them, if they had any suggestions, options, or maybe opinions, something that I should entertain to save myself from the coming draft. They just ignored the question at first. But then my father thought it would be humorous to suggest that the best way to avoid being drafted into the Army is to enlist in the Marines. He was serious. My mother stormed out of the house. She just got into a car and no doubt went to a doctor/lover. My father gave me a dirty look. And he grabbed me by my hair and threw me on the floor, cursing both me and my mother out. Then he went running out the door, probably to his girlfriend's house. At this point, I wasn't really sure which generation was really the free love generation. I picked myself up, pulled myself together, and then went to my room to watch the news. It was like watching a collage of insane self-destruction, a pastiche of individual, distinct, ghostly vectors, all converging on the point of human extinction. Napalm, bombings, firefights, civilian deaths, body bags, atomic bombs, arms race, space race. Hell, we didn't have to go all the way to fucking Asia to kill and hate. We had plenty of it right here. The riots, the assassinations, the prejudice. The media made it look so simple for everybody. Placed everything into neat little boxes for us. Right and left, conservative and liberal, capitalist and communist. And prejudice was reduced down to nothing more than black and white, but even in the white neighborhoods. Words like guinea, Jew, spick, Mick, Pollock still rolled off the good neighbors' tongues. I was beginning to think that a good part of humanity was like cancer cells that just kept spreading and dividing to kill and attack the healthy humanity that was just seeking a higher world order. I viewed the human race like Ouroboros, the mythical snake that ate its own tail in spite of itself.
thoughts are a slurry of past journal entries and present philosophical reflections, all made with the benefit of hindsight and maturity. Thoughts I thought I discarded are now emerging with a vengeance to punish me. I am that terrible demon that I could not keep down as a teen. And now it's raising its ugly head and punishing me with compounded interest. Oh, I am too old to be fighting this off any longer. I'm just using one demon to fight off another. It never works.
Sunday, July 18th, 1971. I just could not sleep. I was up all night. Around 8 a.m. I got out of bed, showered, and dressed. I felt confused, alone. I just kept thinking of need. I was lost and no longer felt I could trust anyone. In my melancholy, I'd walk to church, entering Mass during the sermon. I was ashamed of myself as I reminisced on my younger days when I was an altar boy in this parish. It only fueled my anxiety. The contradictions, we were taught to love as children, but in a few short months, I'd soon be taught to legally kill by my government. If I refused, I'd be committing a federal crime and branded a coward. Early in the evening, I went to hang out with Patty at Columbus Park. She has this cool, hippie, bohemian artist way about her. We smoked a joint and then headed off to the sacred woods to make love, and we were both still feeling down about Meade's exit from the gang. Oh, sweet Patty. Monday, July 19th, 1971. I arrived home from the park around 3 a.m. unnoticed and went to bed. I didn't get up until after my parents left for work to avoid their arguments and personal attacks. I just felt like giving up on life. I don't even want to write this stupid fucking journal anymore. I ignored all phone calls and just got in the car and went for a ride alone.
Nothing changes in time. We always nourish our false perceptions of ourselves and feed our egos with delusions to cover our fears in hopes to mask the truths that lie deep within us that we're afraid to confront. I'm beginning to fear my loneliness. I'm in fear of reading on. I'm afraid to stop reading on. Hell must be a happier state than the one I have lived for 40 years. Suicide seems like my only option. Will tomorrow be any different if I don't confront this terrible demon of truth? Suicide? Suicide. 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 If the world only knew what a fucking charade this life was. When you tell lies when you're in a position of power. And you're being viewed as a hero. Even the wise become like fools who believe you. Nobody ever sees or feels your inner pain. Hi. Patty? It's Jonathan. I really need to talk to you. Please call me back.
Saturday, July 24th, 1971. 11 days away from the big lottery. I became distant from my friends, and even more alienated from my parents. I was living the life of an orphan with parents and siblings. You know, and being the oldest. The oldest have it the hardest. We're the experiment of parenthood. Trial by error. After really fucking with your head, they get it right for your younger siblings to receive the benefits. You know, I didn't even attend this evening's Who concert with the gang. I gave my ticket to Mary. I wasn't even in the mood. I went for a walk early in the evening through Byron Park, a few blocks from my house. It was a far cry from that of Columbus Park. Zip codes have privileges, like it or not. I found a park bench and continued on with the read, The Battle of Dien Bien Phu. You know, in my intellectual melancholy, I just assumed I would land a low lottery number, so I read, non-stop, any book having to do with the history of Vietnam. I felt it would be better to die in battle smart and informed, though. When the bullet strikes, ignorance is bliss. I was taken away from my intellectual reverie of reading, my only true escape from reality, by a soothing woman's voice. Hey man, there's no way to spend a Saturday night. You have a reputation to live up to now. Hey, we don't have much time left in our post-grad summer before real life begins. It was Sally, a classmate of mine. She was a black hippie chick, always smiling like she never experienced a bad moment in her life. Her family was one, if not the only, black families that lived in the area. Her parents were educators. We both smoked as we tried to gaze into our futures, and then we went to a party together. She was smart and precocious, and like all of us teens, a bit reckless. On a dare, we both took a shot of heroin together, unaware of its post-high hepatitis byproduct. We both woke up together in bed the following morning. You know, I was now only 10 days away from the lottery. And between the sheets of intimacy, we're all colorblind. And finally human.
We were both very bold. We crossed the line together with sex, drugs, and rock and roll. We were both blessed to be colorblind in America's pathetic race war. We shared each other's blood and disease for life. It was a far better option than seeing each other as enemies raised in hate.
Can you check that screen to see if that's projector? The projector has it fall asleep. Okay, so.
Saturday, July 31st, 1971. Four days till the big day. You know, my parents still won't talk to me about this. You know, they're too absorbed in their lovers and exhausting themselves in their mock marriage. No sense talking to my friends either. We all have the same fate. We were just biding our time, awaiting our fate. You know, talking proved to be pointless. I was in need of a sanctuary of sorts. Oh, what a hypocrite I've become. You know, I now find myself praying and going to church during the day just to be alone. I've reduced God to nothing more than a genie let out of a bottle by requesting personal favors. I felt sacrilegious in my darkness, knowing I should be worshiping divinity, not mocking it. With my wish list of cowardice, you know, I spent the day reading. Around 4 p.m., Beth called me, my steady girlfriend, to see if I wanted to go to the movies this evening, to see The Summer of 42. I wasn't sure of her intentions. At first, I thought it was a cool joke on her part. I picked her up around 7. She was an attractive girl with long, light brown hair that fell halfway down her back. She had fair skin and blue eyes and a petite though well-formed shape. She was wearing an ankle-length granny dress, in style these days, that she made herself. Had long slits up the sides that revealed her beautiful legs. Oh, she was a good girl, but, you know, a virgin, waiting for that special someone. Just like poor me. You know, the movie was quite disturbing to me. It was a hit at the box office and a tearjerker for Beth. But for me, it just deepened my depression. Beth picked up on this. She told me her friend's parents were away and we could have the house to ourselves, but I had to have her home by midnight. She planned the evening well. The movie was her aphrodisiac, and as a teen, I was blessed with a libido larger than my ignorance. We made love, and for a while, I believed my pains ebbed. Oh, P.S. Here I am in a position of procreation at the discretion of my will, and in a few short months, I'll be trained against my will to kill creation. You know, it just doesn't make any fucking sense anymore. I made love to a black woman in the midst of a race war. How easy and convenient humans find a reason to hate and suppress others. Well, if a rabbit or two die, at least I've left behind an extension of myself if a bullet finds me in some jungle field. Wednesday, August 5th, 1971. Big day. I couldn't sleep all night. I was up early and saw my parents off to work. Neither one of them wished me luck or asked me how I was feeling. My parents were heartless, self-serving, egocentric, and self-absorbed in every sense. When I reminded them of the draft lottery today, their response was uniform. Well, son, we have an insurance policy on you, so don't you worry yourself thinking about us. We prepared for the day. My response? Fuck you both. Around 10 a.m. all my guy friends called just to chat about what happens if a few of us hit the low numbers. Danny Sticks and Frank Big Mac McGuire, the mouthier and more boisterous of the old gang, said, hey, if you hit the low marks, we're not joining together under no buddy system. We're all on our own. They were both quite good card players, especially poker, and had a poker's luck about them. And they were good bluffers, too. I deflected their mockery. I just turned on the TV to watch the draft. You know, in a few moments, my fate will be sealed. I became number and number with each pick. Finally, August 26th was drawn. I held my breath. It felt like an eternity. Next, they pulled the capsule with my number on it. Shit. 3:48. I dropped to my knees and I prayed, God, thanks. It was the only humble act of my teens. Sticks and Big Mac, they both pulled numbers below 20. They called me in a panic saying, hey, we should all go enlist together under the buddy system. I told them, fuck you, I don't have any buddies.
We're full stage right now. Full stage.
Hattie, thank you for coming here to meet me today.
John, I don't know why I'm doing this. You're not worthy of my company or respect. You're nothing but a coward. Why did you call me today after 40 years of ignoring our phone calls? What kind of a man abandons his friends in a time of need?
How's Mary doing?
You're fucking pathetic. She OD'd right after we got the news about Meade. That was 40 years ago. We called you, we left messages, but never heard back from you. Why, John, huh?
And the Esher Queen, Paula, how's she doing? Oh, she was always a wonderful
I
child.
can't believe this. Did you just come here to screw with me, Mr. fucking Ivy League MBA? Paula died 10 years ago. Ovarian cancer. She kept asking for you, but once again, you were nowhere to be found, you coward.
And Danny, Sticks, we used to call him, and
Look,
Big
John,
Mac. And...
John, stop the bullshit. Why don't you just go find them yourself? You're just fucking unbelievable.
Patty, please.
You only called me here today because you need something. Well, let me refresh your memory. Do you remember the last time you saw me?
Oh, Patty, that's not fair. I mean, I can't remember. It's 40 years.
That's the point, John. Let me remind you. Remember when you called me after Meade left? You felt down, poor John, and you took me to the sacred woods so we can forget about Meade's induction. You were worried about your upcoming draft lottery, remember? Have you really forgotten that evening too? Do you have any recollection of it at all?
Patty, I'm sorry. I don't remember. I mean, it's been years.
Well, think, John, think and try to remember that evening. Wasn't it special for you? Wasn't it magical? Don't you remember, John?
I'm sorry, Patty. I don't remember.
You bastard. You don't remember seducing me. I was scared. I told you, you were first. What was I? An embarrassment to you? You changed your name, moved away from our Italian heritage. Mr. Jonathan Marshall, aka Johnny Marciano. You are a real shit. That was literally the last fucking time we saw each other. I see it meant nothing to you. You had no regard for me and my feelings. You know how to take, but when it comes to giving back, you suck. You have no respect for anyone, do you, Jonathan Marshall?
Oh, Patty, please, you don't understand. Now, let me explain.
What is there
Please.
to explain? There's no excuse for your actions then and now. The morning Meade left, you didn't walk into the platform or stay with him. You just shook his hand and give him an emotionless bye. We all saw the news footage that his platoon was ambushed and he was taken prisoner by the Viet Cong. He never came home. Where the hell were you? You never even attended prayer services, you didn't visit his parents, you never cried with us? Where were you when we needed you, Mr. Corporate Big Shot? Did you ever think of us in need? He never came home. We needed you. You know, Meade looked up to you. We all did. You were the smart one. You were our leader, our hero. What happened, John, huh? How do you sleep at night, you soulless fucking excuse for a human being? I hate you. We all hate you. And yeah, we got the news. We heard the news that you pulled a 348 at the draft lottery. Not to mention the hepatitis and the pregnant wife. What was her name? Beth. You would never be draft bait. You have no fucking honesty or balls.
Patty, please, please.
Jonathan, please. Why, even a lowly civil servant like me could figure this one out. Sorry. Is the stench of my blue-collar body now too cheap for your royal blood? Aren't you afraid when you're afraid one of your friends from the country club is going to see your Porsche parked in this side of town? How do you look at yourself in the mirror each morning? See your name in those fancy business magazines? It's in the paper how a local boy made it to the top of the corporate world. How many lives have you sacrificed and ruined to satisfy serving cowardice? Huh, John? Tell me. Tell me. How do you look at yourself in the mirror each morning? What do you see? Do you feel any guilt? Any remorse? Or are you just an unfeeling iceberg? You asked me to see you today. Well, we, Meade, wherever he is, demand an answer, or may God damn your useless soul.
Patty, I can't.
You can't what, John?
I can't look at myself in the mirror every morning and face myself. That's why I'm here.
You poor bastard. And you come here now, today, after 40 fucking years, looking for pity and forgiveness?
No.
Then what, John?
To explain the truth.
The truth? What do you know about the truth?
Meade wasn't drafted. He enlisted. He tested smart and he volunteered for a special ops unit. Look, I've always had great respect for Meade. I've always felt a special bond with him. he did come and talk to me about his decision, but he made me promise never to reveal it until he was discharged.
Go on.
Oh, Patty, Meade was such a gentle soul. But he was patriotic. It fucking killed me when he told me about his decision, when he told me about his plan. I tried everything in my power to talk him out of it, but he made me promise not to tell anyone of his decision. I kept thinking about what they were doing to Meade. What kind of torture did he have to endure? Oh, was he alive? Was he dead? How did he die? And, oh, what his parents must have gone through. He made me promise not to tell anyone about his decision. I felt like such a useless failure. I just fucking snapped when he told me that he enlisted. It ended me. That's why I couldn't take him to the platform. I just couldn't do it. I would have just broke down.
And what's wrong with that, John? So you have emotions. You're human.
Patty, I couldn't deal with life anymore, and then to add insult to injury, he left a virgin. I failed, Patty. Believe me, I have not lived that storybook life for 40 years. I still keep the clippings of his capture in my desk drawer. I read them every morning just to torment myself.
It's all right, John. I'm here for you. How did you really live these last 40 years?
I had 3 marriages, 3 divorces. I became an alcoholic, and when that no longer stopped the pain, I became an addict. Then there was the detox and the rehab, the gambling and the fucking around, and then finally, domestic abuse charge. Shakespeare said it best. Brave man, but dies once. A coward dies 1,000 deaths. I die with each new breath. Oh, I keep thinking about what he was going through and what he was enduring. Oh, what his parents must have been going through. That's why I couldn't face them. Maybe if I had been more persuasive, maybe if I had reached out to someone who could have talked him out of it. He did come and talk to me about his decision. But Meade wasn't cut out to be that Eagle Scout. That little boy's smile and his sincerity. That would fucking killed me when he told me about when I read the news article. This is where my honor has gotten us today. It's a price I can't live with. I read that news article. I began to hate the word honor. To control the rage created by my failures, I jumped into the business world and became a cutthroat. Oh, I wanted revenge on this fucking crazy world. In my business takeovers, I fired people just for the sport of it. I took no prisoners in any business takeover. It ended me. I changed my name to protect the honor of my parents, not to run from my heritage. And then this morning it just hit me. I couldn't run anymore. In my retirement, I had too much time to reflect. And the thoughts of Meade and the old gang, it just broke me. I couldn't live with myself anymore. I kept thinking suicide was my only solution. That's why I'm here today. I am so sorry. I know I'm not worthy of your forgiveness.
Jonathan, do you know you're crying?
We find out too late in life, Patty. Crying is what makes men men. And women women. Oh, it makes people human.
What's that?
This is Meade's old hammer and chisel. He carved his initials in this rock. ATW. I'm gonna chip a piece out and take it home with me. Good old Arthur Thomas Wormwood. Oh, what is this? That is god awful.
It's a special brew we made for Meade's send-off party. I felt the need to keep it all these years.
To our never forgotten friend, Arthur Thomas Wormwood.
May he look down upon us from his heaven
as we return his smiles with joyous glee.
What's that? Does it start, does it down or go first or second? Not yet. Star Spangled Banner first.
So, Patty,
Matter of time is first,
what's next? Any suggestions?
and then Star Spangled.
Well, Johnny Marciano, it's getting kind of late. It'll be dark soon.
Black out, and then we'll bring the screen down.
How about
Flag.
we take a stroll to the sacred woods, just for old time's sake? I'm sure we can make it a night to remember. Till death do us part?
Death do us part. After all, it is just a matter of time.
Is it ready for the blackout? After this is up, screen. Oh, good, heads up. All right, let me hold in position.
It's just a matter of time as life passes us by. Will there be sunshine in heaven's sky, or life to deny? Long roads to nowhere. Yesterday haunts my mind. Our walks slip in time and bitter wine. Just has to be a matter of time. It's all we have, rain or shine. Just has to be a matter of time. It's all we have, rain or shine. Between dusk and dawn, we walk without dream, through sleep with regret. Never right yesterday's wrongs. Autumn's leaves color eyes, masking time with their disguise. Silence trees now strip bare, reveal all we fear. Words won't stay, a farewell song with broken wing. She sings alone. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of
Yes.